Hi, I'm Michele at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, coming to you from the children's room. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of our longer read aloud of Alvin Ho, Allergic to Girls' School and Other Scary Things. This is written by Lenore Look with pictures by LuUyen Pham and published by Yearling. So, part 2. Chapter 5, The Trouble with the S Word. Not being able to talk in school is a terrible problem, but having a girl desk buddy is even worse. It is the kiss of death. At recess I heard, Alvin and Flea sitting in a tree, Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Alvin with the baby carriage. Ooh, it really fried my rice. But the real problem with having a girl desk buddy is that she will follow you home no matter how hard you try to ditch her. And it is hard to ditch her when the bus stops at the end of your driveway and nearly everyone gets off and your house is right there and the whole gang can see that a girl is going up your driveway. Hi, Mrs. Ho, called Flea as soon as we reached the top. Hello, Sophie, said my mom, smiling, using Flea's real name. It's very nice to see you. Mouths dropped open at the bottom of the driveway. Pinky, Jules, Sam, Naya, Eli, Scooter, and Hobson, the whole gang stood speechless. It's nice to see you too, said Flea, blinking her one good eye at my mom. If there's anything good about Flea, it is this. She wears an eye patch over her eye, like a pirate. There she is. Also, one of her legs is longer than the other, like a peg leg, which is also marvelous. I'm Alvin's desk buddy again this year. That's wonderful, said my mom, smiling even more and holding the door open. Alvin is very lucky. Yup, said Flea, he's very lucky. Would you like to come in for some afternoon tea and rice crackers? I narrowed my eyes at Flea, which meant she had better say no and go away. And my mom narrowed her eyes at me, which meant I had better behave like a gentleman or I had something coming. I'd love to, said Flea, and she stepped right inside my house and then sat right down at my place in the kitchen across from Annie Belly. Worse, Lucy came and gave her the kiss that she usually gives to me. It's a terrible problem not being able to talk at school, Flea said right off, so having the right desk buddy makes a real difference. My mom nodded. She had that look on her face that said she thought Flea was a darling girl. It's a big responsibility, said Flea, so I'm even more prepared this year than last year. You have a PDK? Asked Annie Belly. No, said Flea, but I made this. And she reached into her backpack and pulled out a book. The book on Alvin, it said on the cover. I wrote the book on Alvin, said Flea, and then Flea proudly opened her book. Page 1. Alvin can talk with his eyes, Flea read loud and clear. Page 2. There was a drawing of 2 eyes, my 2 eyes. These eyes mean he's thinking, I read. Flea nodded. She turned the page. Page 3. There was a drawing of 2 more eyes. These eyes mean he's okay, read Flea. Page 4. A pair of anxious eyes. These eyes mean he has to go pee, exclaimed Annie Belly without reading. Hey, I said. Page 5. A pair of big, round eyes. And these eyes mean he has bingo, read Flea. What a great book, said my mom with that smile on her face that said she thought Flea was a very clever girl, and I had still better be a gentleman or else. You are very observant, my mom added. Here's some of the eyes. Flea beamed. Thank you, she said. People think Alvin's uncommunicative, but he's really not. Alvin should be proud to have a friend like you, said my mom. She was so pleased that she brought out a special treat, 2,000-year-old dragon's beard candy in a box, and offered it to Flea first. As if that weren't enough, Flea asked for chopsticks. Then she slurped her tea like she really meant it and pinched a dragon's beard candy right between her chopsticks and popped it right into her mouth. She even chewed with her mouth closed the whole time. I saw dragon's beard candy on a cooking show once, said Flea, dabbing her lips with a napkin. It's made of 8,000 strands of sugar wrapped around nuts and coconut and sesame seeds. My mom beamed. I'm taking aggression for girls, Flea went on. It's a combination of kickboxing and karate, and it's supposed to make me stronger. And I got a goldfish this summer, and his name is Boatswain. He watches only action movies and swims around only during commercials. She smiled and reached for another piece of dragon's beard. I could hardly stand it. I think it's a stupid book, I blurted. And you're a stupid girl. Flea gasped. She clasped the book on Alvin to her chest, and her mouth fell open, and some beard strands fell out. Alvin Ho, said my mom. You apologize right now. I hung my head. I had used the S word. There he is. I crossed my chopsticks this way, then I crossed my chopsticks that way. My mom was giving me that look, which meant that I had better apologize or she would make dragon's beard out of me. Yoctoseconds turned into zeptoseconds, turned into attoseconds, turned into a blink of an eye, and then into a heartbeat. Then my life crawled before my eyes. Sorry, I finally peeped. Tears filled Flea's eyes. It was not a good sign. I had a terrible feeling that a gentleman would never make a girl cry, even a girl with only one eye. Flea slipped the book on Alvin into her backpack and without a word headed out the door. I was so relieved and happy to see her go. I felt like dancing. If I had danced, the new look on my mom's face said she would have broken my legs. So I dashed out after Flea. I had a feeling that it was the gentleman thing to do, but I didn't really know. I couldn't remember. Hey, I huffed when I caught up with her, but Flea did not stop. She moves rather fast for someone who can see only half of everything and walks on uneven legs. Stop, I said. Flea stopped. She blinked her eyes. She crossed her arms. I breathed in and I breathed out. I did not feel so good. I was on the sidewalk in broad daylight, gulp, with a girl. Okay, I said. Okay, what? Said Flea. Okay, I'm going to mean it this time, I said. Flea waited. I waited. A car rolled by. I leaned over to see what was in the gutter. Nothing. Here they are waiting. Then I looked up to see if there might be any giant meteorites heading for Flea. None. So finally I blurted, I'm sorry that it's a weird book and that you're a weird girl. Pow! I think it was an uppercut. I'd seen it on Saturday afternoon boxing with my popo. An uppercut is when you curl your arm like you're picking up a pail of rocks and you send your fist into the opponent's jaw from the bottom up. I lifted off my feet and landed on my butt. Ow! I felt like crying, so I did. Just as I was about to duke it back to Flea, a police car rolled by. And everyone knows that a police car is much more interesting than punching a girl. It was a good thing the police car rolled by because I had come from a long line of farmer warriors in China who have been duking it out since 714 AD. And it looked like Flea had taken lessons or something and knew what she was doing. So we would have battled to the death for sure. And it is hard to say how scary that would have been. Chapter 6, Minutemen versus Redcoats. If Flea were a boy, everything would be different. First, she wouldn't have ignored me all morning. Second, things would have improved between us on account of boys have more respect for one another after a good pounding. But Flea's not a boy, she's a girl, and girls are weird even if they wear a cool eye patch, drag a cool peg leg, and know how to throw a mean uppercut. I was thinking about all this when, Alvin, a voice called. Alvin! My heart stopped. It was Miss P. She is very nice, but she has a habit of calling on you when you least expect it. Everyone was looking at me over the tops of their books and holding their breath. The hand on the clock tick, 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 tick. Someone's toe tap, tock, tock, tock. My heart thumped, boom, boom, boom. I couldn't breathe in. I couldn't breathe out. Alvin, said Miss P, would you like to skip your turn? It was reading class, and we were reading something about Henry David Thoreau's furniture. He had only 3 chairs, 1 for being by himself, 2 for a friend, and 3 for a party. Normally I like reading. Like my dad, I am a great reader for my age. I can make my voice go up and down and pause at all the commas and periods, just like my dad, to make everything super duper exciting. But in school, I opened my mouth. The words on the page were supposed to roll right off my tongue, but nothing did. I was not skipping my turn, but it always looks like I am. If there is anything good about reading class, it is this. History class comes next. History class is not like reading class. History is all about the American Revolutionary War, which happened back when everyone was having fights and firing cannons left and right and enjoying all sorts of explosions without getting busted. If you live in Concord, Massachusetts, which is hard to spell, it is hard not to like history. My gung says it has something to do with feng shui, which is the Chinese way of saying some places are more exciting than others. The only problem with Concord is that there are no volcanoes. If there were a volcano with explosions now and then, it would be the most exciting place in the world. The best thing about history, as everyone knows, is that you can play it at recess. Our favorite game is Patriots' Day, which is based on the most exciting day of the year, April 19, which is the day when the American Revolutionary War began back in 1775. Every year on that day, the church bells ring like crazy, just like they rang long ago, to call the Minutemen out from their homes to fight the Redcoats. The Minutemen were the good guys. They were ready to march or fight at a minute's notice. And the Redcoats were the bad guys, sent by the King of England to capture the gunpowder and explosives that the Minutemen had hidden all over Concord. This is how to play Patriots' Day. First, the Redcoats march in across the playground from their hiding place behind the cafeteria. Then the Minutemen slither across the grassy field like angry snakes from their hiding place behind trees. They meet at the Old North Bridge, which is really the monkey bars, where the Redcoats won't let the Minutemen swing across. The Minutemen begin to swing anyway because the monkey bars belong to them, and the British say, no way, they've just captured the monkey bars, so they shoot the Minutemen, who then drop dead on the wood chips. Then the British Redcoats want to pretend to be dead too, but the Minutemen won't let them. The Redcoats pretend to be dead anyway, but the Minutemen won't stand for it, so they duke it out just like they did back in historic times. It is mayhem and chaos. It is the beginning of the American Revolution. But before you can have a revolution, you have to choose sides. You guys on this side are the Minutemen, said Pinky, who usually does all the choosing. And you guys on that side are the Redcoats. He pointed to everyone but me. I wanted to play too, so I said with my eyes, here they are on the playground. So I said with my eyes that I wanted to be a Minuteman or a Redcoat. It didn't matter. To me, war was war. Hey, how about Alvin? Asked Sam. He doesn't like leaving anyone out. I stood up as tall as I could. Alvin who? Asked Pinky. He looked around, he looked up and down, and then he looked right through me. Who's Alvin? Pinky is no Pinky. He has been the biggest boy in my class since kindergarten because he started school late. He's also the leader of the gang, which means if he doesn't play with me, the other boys won't either. I wished with all my might that Pinky would let me play, but he never does. And then I wished with all my might that I could just scream, but I couldn't. I could only stamp my foot, which didn't help. I was buzzing mad like my dad's electric razor, but I couldn't buzz. The British are coming! The British are coming! Pinky yelled to start the game. Here's a picture of Pinky. He was pretending to be Samuel Prescott, the local hero who warned Concord that the enemy was approaching. It's not fair that Pinky is always Samuel Prescott, but he is the biggest boy, and the biggest boy can be whoever he wants. God save the king, yelled Jules. Jules was the leader of the Redcoats. God save the Minutemen, screamed Sam. Charge! Everyone yelled. The gang headed for the monkey bars, where the Minutemen pounded the Redcoats and the Redcoats thumped the Minutemen until the playground monitor came and called a timeout. It was fantastic. Even though I wasn't a Minuteman or a Redcoat, I played dead at the end anyway because there's no law stopping anyone from lying on the softwood chips and closing their eyes. You can't live in Concord without loving history, but I sure wish that I loved recess too. And here he is playing dead at the end. Right. Chapter 7, The best way to avoid school. The best way to avoid school, as everyone knows, is to get sick. But not all sicknesses are created equal. Some are better than others. Tonsillitis, for example, is pretty good. You get all the Italian ice you want. It is my dream to have tonsillitis someday. Appendicitis is good too, but not as good as a burst appendix, which gets you a ride in a wailing ambulance speeding through all the red lights on Route 62 to Emerson Hospital. This happened when Calvin's appendix burst and our mom found him on the kitchen floor. He has all the luck. The flu's okay, but it's not great. You only get ginger ale and crackers, which is a real ripoff, but usually you get to watch all the cooking shows and cartoons that you want. The common cold, one bad tasting zinc drop, some tissues, and you're back in school the next day. Medical mysteries. If you get foreign accent syndrome or barking madness or squeaky chalk phobia, forget it. You're back in school the next day. So you have to be patient. It's like choosing a car or a house. My mom says you shouldn't jump at the first offer because a better deal might be around the corner. And it was. One day, Jules was out with the chicken pox. Don't go near Jules's house, Miss P warned our class. It'll take 2 weeks for all the blisters to scab over completely. Until then, Jules is highly contagious. Highly contagious? I felt like dancing. I nearly burst like fireworks, but I didn't. I had to wait until after school. It was hard not to go near Jules's house. It is on the way to everything. It is as though Jules's house is a big magnet and I am an iron filing, and every time I so much as step out of my house, I am yanked toward it just like that. When I finished after school tea with my mom and finally stepped out of my house, that was exactly what happened. I was sucked by such a powerful force toward Jules's house that I could barely even pick up the fat frog in the gutter on my way. And when I got to Jules's house, there was already a line behind the tall bushes in front, just like the line at the cinema when there's a scary movie playing. Hey guys, I said. Shh, hissed Eli. Stay low or Jules's mom will see us and we'll all get sent home. Wait your turn or shove off, said Hobson, who always gives you a choice. This is a top secret undercover operation. We go in one at a time or we don't go in at all. Okay, I said, I'll wait. Said the frog in my hands. What's that you got? A frog? Asked Naya. Yep, I said. I set the frog in the grass and everyone leaped around trying to catch it for a while. It was fabulous. Here they are waiting in line behind the bushes. Then, before I knew it, it was my turn. I caught my frog, rushed around the side of the house, and ran right into Pinky under Jules's window. Watch where you're going, said Pinky. He held out a can. On the can was a label. 1 minute visit, 50 cents. Jump into bed, $1. You got $1? Pinky asked. I gasped. Normally, Pinky does not speak to me. Usually, I do not show up on his radar. Not one bleep, not even a flicker. But I was flickering now. I shook my head. I did not have $1. You got 50 cents? Here he is. No, I'll take the frog then, said Pinky. No way, I said, tucking the frog into my armpit. It's for Jules. No $1, no frog, no service, said Pinky. Wait, I said, remembering an unchewed piece of gum in my back pocket. I took it out. It was warm and soft. Pinky grabbed the gum, unwrapped it, and stuffed it into his cheek. Okay, he said, gnawing. You get a minute. I took my frog and hopped through Jules's window. Jules was in bed. I gave my frog to Jules. Thanks, said Jules. Ribbit, said the frog. Ribbit. So where's the chicken, I asked, glancing around Jules's room. I was wondering that myself, said Jules. I wish I knew. I was really disappointed. How do you catch chicken pox without first catching a chicken? I came to catch the chicken pox, I said, not the plain pox. But the plain pox wasn't too shabby. It had turned Jules's head into a potato covered with red eyes. Some eyes were crying, others were crusty like a sugar on a cookie. It was great. Jules had never looked scarier. So what you doing, I asked. Nothing, said Jules. Well, maybe I'm scratching a little. Jules was scratching like crazy. I do not know if Jules is a girl or a boy. Sometimes Jules plays with boys and other times Jules plays with girls. Jules could stand for Julian or it could stand for Julia. It's hard to tell. The blisters didn't help either. In fact, they made Jules look like neither boy nor girl. Instead, Jules looked a good deal like an alien, a real live alien potato fresh off a UFO. You're so lucky, I said. I'd love to look at that. I'd love to look like that. Yeah, said Jules, it's really great except for the itching. You got any you can't reach, I asked. Yeah, right up in the middle of my back, said Jules, squirming. So I gave Jules a hand. I think it is one of the rules of being a gentleman, but I don't really know. I can't remember. Thanks, said Jules. Anytime, I said. Time's up, Pinky hissed from the window. Dude, I said. Dude, said Jules. Here he is scratching his back. None of us caught a chicken or even saw one, so none of us broke out with the chicken pox that day or the plain pox either. It was a terrible disappointment. Then, a long time later, just when we'd forgotten all about Jules and the chicken pox and none of us were trying to catch anything, a miracle happened. Our art teacher, Mr. Grunert, who was showing us famous self-portraits one warm afternoon. Frida Kahlo looked a little itchy to me with branches coming out of her hair. Paul Gauguin looked a bit feverish because he was in Tahiti, where it's really hot. And Vincent van Gogh, in his scratchy straw hat, definitely looked itchy, very itchy. Then we got mirrors and brushes so that we could paint our own self-portraits. My self-portrait was going to be a masterpiece, but strangely, I didn't feel like painting. I didn't feel like doing anything at all. You boys look a little strange, said Mr. Grunert. I felt strange. And then I looked into the mirror and something scary stared back. Ah! Screamed the whole gang. They were looking in their mirrors too. And then Flea, who was next to me, looked at me. Ah! She screamed, spilling her paints. And the other girls screamed too. Some ran fast and others ran faster. You would think we were a bunch of aliens or something. Here they are looking in the mirror. School shut down for 2 weeks and a half after that. There was a story about us in the newspaper so that people as far away as Andover, Massachusetts, which is hard to spell, read about the great chickenpox epidemic in Concord. We were famous. And the newspaper said the first victim had been carefully quarantined and all the children had been warned to keep away. How the epidemic ever got started was a complete mystery. All right, and we are going to stop there today. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of Alvin Ho, Allergic to Girls, School, and Other Scary Things, written by Lenore Look, illustrated by LuUyen Pham, published by Yearling. I'm Michele from the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'll see you next time for part 3.